Hello, good morning or good evening, whenever you are watching this, if you are later on YouTube. Thank you for joining me. I am Amanda with Blue Highway Games, and we are continuing our weekly features of talking about games that we are going to have on sale for the following week, from this Friday, from today, until the following Thursday, which is April 1st. And today, if you're watching the video, I may be piecing together some clues to help you solve a mystery that might get you an even bigger discount in store, a secret code, if you will. Get an extra 5% off if you are tuning in all this week. So thank you for joining us. I'll try to keep an eye on the chat. I see I have one viewer so far. Thank you, Slug Biker, for joining me. I believe that's Rebecca. Nice to have you joining. And if you have any questions, do feel free to type them out, and I'll try to keep an eye on in the chat. So today we are going to be talking about mystery games. And mystery games, like a lot of genres, are also very popular in things like movies and TV and books. Well, they're nonetheless popular in games, and they're also nonetheless as diverse as they would be in books and movies and TV. So they're all over the place. They are for young, they're for old, they're simple, they're incredibly complex, and anywhere in between. So today I have picked out 5 that are maybe a little more unusual. So there's no Clue featured here today, though Clue is definitely the #1 deduction game that I grew up on, and players have to figure out and solve the mystery by eliminating what clues are not available, so figuring out by process of elimination who did it. Most of these games don't really tap into even elements from that game, but some may have some similarities. So if Clue is a good reference point for you, that is some place to start. So the first one I have is probably the closest, and it's, I don't even know if it's technically the youngest. It's the same as one of the others, but it is a new series of games. There's 2 out right now, and it's called The Key. This is Sabotage at Lucky Llama Land that I have and I have played. It plays 1 to 5 players, which was a nice feature of this week's theme. I was able to actually play most of them because they're playable as a solo player, which is fantastic. So Lucky Llama Land, Sabotage at Lucky Llama Land is the closest in feel to the game of Clue, but very much different. So you do have a grid that you are working on, your private player screen, where you are able to mark down things that you're finding out from the card clues so that you can keep track of information, and you're trying to get down to a who did it, on what day, with what weapon, or what weapon. You're sabotaging amusement park rides, so how did you sabotage the ride? Maybe you pulled the plug, or yeah, I guess it's wire cutters, a knife, and a taser. So it's not super young. It's a little scary. But you have to figure out who did it, what, where, and how. So how you do that, though, is instead of waiting and taking turns like you do in Clue and moving into a room and sharing cards with other people, all of the cards in the deck, it's a big deck, are available through the whole game. But they're kind of spread out on the table in one big messy pile. And you're not taking turns. You're able to kind of dig through the pile looking for clues, and you are trying to find ones that have the color relating to the puzzle you are working on for this round. And so at the start, you know it's purple, let's say. So I would be looking for cards that have purple on them. And that's not going to translate on the screen because that looks blue when I see it back to me, but it is back purple. So I would be able to find this in the pile, pull it out, and add it to my behind my screen. Now this clue is only going to be visible to me. I'm the only person that's going to see this clue that's going to help me figure out and solve the case. But the more of these I grab, so if I just furiously dig through the pile and pull out all the clues I want so I can easily solve the mystery, those cards are going to count against you at the end of the game. You want a very low score, so you do not want to get 50 cards. You want to get as few cards as possible to solve the case, but you want to do it quickly because you want to get those cards before maybe the opponents get the cards. The front that has the color also tells you kind of maybe what type of clue you're going to be seeing on the back side. You also have a little booklet that helps you reference things like the map of the park or what type of shoes the suspects were wearing, and also some tickets of shows at the park that they may have been attending, so you can see if they were in fact there on the day that you think they might have been at the park. So using all the clues from the cards, the handy reference booklet, and being able to keep track of it on here with your little dry erase marker, you're trying to race, but not really too fast, you'll mess up, against your opponents to solve. And when you think you know what the answer is, you're going to figure out, using this code here, a number. And with that number, you're going to take the little keyboard and insert the key, and then when you flip it over, you'll see whether or not you in fact solved the purple case by getting the correct purple number. So this is probably the most unnecessary yet very fun component of the game. So I enjoyed having that moment where I got to select which one I thought it was. Now, I played this solo. I did blue. If anyone out there wants to do blue, I got a score of 41. It tells you in the booklet when you're playing solo how you are faring with that score, and that was 34 plus. It's considered an absolute failure. So I completely failed, and apparently need to take my time and think about the clues I draw before just gobbling up more clues. So that is the key from Haba Games. It's new. There are 2 of them out. I actually don't remember the name of the other one, but we do have it in store. We have 2 of them. And so there'll be, I think, 9 mysteries per box. But you can replay them after a time, because they sort of kind of run together, and the clues that you draw are the things that score for you. So even if you know the answer, wait a few weeks, you will forget, and you'll be able to draw cards, and because all the clues are the same in each of them. So I think I heard online it has a decent amount of replayability past that point. But 9 games is still several game nights worth of fun from a single box, and then you can get another mystery if you so choose. And normally it's $29.95, but it'll be 20% off for the next week until April 1st. But stay tuned for an extra 5% off if you can solve the mystery. All right, so the next one I have is the only one of the bunch that is not playable solo. In fact, this one is the opposite. It is a mystery party game, so you need at minimum 4 players. And so it's called Detective Club. It goes from 4 to 8 players, I want to say. Yes, 4 to 8 players. So for big families, or once you've all got your vaccines and you're having game night after game night after game night, because that's what I plan on doing. You're going to have a hand of cards. Now, I should say this deck of cards that comes with this game, they're like the Dixit cards, in that they're all fabulous art. And there's like a whole stack of them. You could decorate a whole wall with this stack. I might one day do that. But you have a hand of these kind of very whimsical art cards. And when you are the informer, it's your turn. You are going to look through your hand of cards, and you are going to think of one word that would describe two of your cards. And when you think you've come up with something, so I might say, I had this planned, and then I accidentally shuffled the cards, so I don't have the cards I planned out, so you're going to watch me think about this in real time. But journey. So I put this down. I don't say my word. I just put the card down. And then I have these fun little informer booklets. I am going to write down my word, which I've already forgotten, journey, on all of these decks to hand out to the other players, except one. So for fans of A Fake Artist Goes to New York, where you're drawing but one person doesn't know what the heck everybody's drawing, this is sort of the same in that one person does not know what type of cards to play down. You're going to write down journey, 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 blank, and then you're going to pass out all the booklets, and the person who picks up the one that says blank or nothing on it, they don't know what to put down. They're going to have to figure it out. All the other players see the word, they look through their deck of cards, they pick out a card that matches it, and we're going to go around the circle playing down the cards that match that theme. The person who doesn't know what it is, looking around the table without looking incredibly panicked, trying to figure out what the word is to play down a card that would match the theme. And then I'm going to, as the informer, play down my second card that I thought matched that theme. So this totally looks like a journey. And go back around the room, and once everybody has 2 cards down, Then the person who doesn't know what's going on is going to have about 30 seconds to formulate a justification for their cards, because starting with the informer, they're going to say their word. So I'm going to say journey. And then I'm going to say, I chose these cards because this one represents a person who is walking through the desert, discovering wondrous things. And this one reminded me of the journey that Alice makes through Wonderland when she meets the caterpillar. And then it's going to go on to the next person, and they're going to have to say why they picked the cards they did to fit the word journey. So if you are the person who didn't know that the word was journey until about 30 seconds ago, you're going to have to come up and impromptu speech for your justification and give reasons for your cards, and then it's going to go around the table, and then all players are going to try to figure out who the faker is, and they're going to take their little magnifying glass and they're going to put it on that player if they think that they've given away clues to suggest they didn't know what they were talking about. You can't bid on the informer, even though you think my justification for that is really stupid. You go ahead and put it on mine. So that is Detective Club. You do need that large group because a lot of it depends on trying to figure out who is what. So it really doesn't play with 2 or even 3 players, because at 3, they'll know, the one who knows the word will know the other person's the person who doesn't, because the informer can't. So 4 is minimum, 8 is even better. And the cards themselves are these wonderful little whimsical art that you can play with over and over and over again. Normally, Detective Club is $34.95, but it'll be 20% off this week. Yes, it does sound like a lot of fun with lots and lots of people, because you do need them. All right, what do I have next? Oh, the next one I have is the least like Clue, but mystery-themed game that I have, and that is Arkham Noir. So this is the opposite of Detective Club in that it's a solo-only card game. So this is a solitaire game that you play with a little deck of cards. And it's also the least like a traditional mystery game in that you're not actually solving a crime. So it is something that can be played over and over again. The theme itself is like film noir. So you are a hard-boiled detective like Philip Marlowe. And you are trying to gather clues, which are different symbols, on cases, which are victims of these sad little poor dead people, and you're trying to figure out what happened to them, but you're not really solving it. You're just trying to play down cards from your hand legally and get enough clues, which are the different symbols at the top of the card, attached to a case. And when you've gathered enough different symbols and clues, there's 6 of them, you think you need 5 to close the case, if I remember correctly, but you have to play down the cards from your hand, get enough clues, and then you need puzzle clues in there, which are pretty rare, so they're not going to be popping up in your hand as often. And when you have enough puzzle pieces in your solved mystery or closed case, you clean up those cards, you add the puzzle piece to the big picture, and when you get enough of them in the big picture, you win the game. But cards are going to start to run out from the deck. You're going to run out of victims. So if you run out of victims, you have nowhere to add clues, nowhere to add puzzle pieces, no cases to solve. You can't solve the case, you lose. So the game plays in a tableau is your cards out. There's places to put everything, and you are sort of seeing a lineup of cards that are coming your way. You have to draw the first one, and then you have to play it down or add it to your hand or discard to activate. And the way that cards are connected are by symbols on the edges, so they have to match. So I could not put this card next to this one because those symbols don't match. But if I had it, let's say, in this order, and this card was played first, then I'd be able to match it up because those little eyeball symbols match. And then I have two different types of clues attached to that case, which makes me very happy. But sometimes there's actions on the bottom that impact that lineup of cards or the timing of the game. If you discard certain cards, it's going to work against you. They're going to kind of get up into a pile, and that'll start to trigger you to have to add more victims. And if you run out of that pile, you lose. And then this wouldn't be a true Arkham game, which you're saying this doesn't sound like Arkham at all, without a little bit of that possibility of insanity that you have. And at some point, if you've added too many clues and you still haven't been able to close the case, to wrap it up, to claim those puzzle pieces, you start to have to make sanity checks. And then if you flip over certain cards, and if some cards come up, you start to get a little bit more insane. And if that fills up, you also lose the game. So that is Arkham Noir. It's a solo-only kind of solitaire-type card game of hand management and playing down to try to collect the right cards at the right time and do so efficiently so you don't run out of time. I lost. I almost won. I was so close. I was like 2 cards away, I swear. But they ran out. And once some of them are discarded, they're discarded forever. So that was Arkham Noir. It normally is $19.99. There's 2 versions of them. This is the case 1, the Witch Cult Murders. So I actually haven't played the second one. It might play significantly different. I don't know. But I really enjoyed this a whole lot more than I thought I was going to. Because I thought, how do you do like a mystery game with 1 player? Well, you don't. You can have a mystery themed game with 1 player. I mean, not that you can't. Because obviously most of these are solitaire, but I just was surprised by how it played. So we're moving on to the next one, which is the closest to the more popular escape room type themed mystery games that have been coming out. Oh, sorry, I missed a question. How repeatable is it? Very repeatable. It's like playing solitaire with a deck of cards, because it's just, the game isn't like you're not actually deducing anything, so it's just about how you can pattern out the cards, and you can kind of play it over and over, and so that's probably why I was pleasantly surprised, because I solved the mystery, but it isn't a one-time use. There we go. You can play it over and over. All right, Mystery House, which is the closest to things like Exit and Unlock and escape rooms, but it's this big old box, and it's Adventures in a Box. Now, the way it works is it comes with 2 to fit the system, and you'd play through those in a kind of like you would just like a box of Exit, one-time use, but you will be able to pass these on to other people. And then there's expansions that are coming up that you add into your Mystery House to use it over and over, but yeah, I won't really understand until I show you. It is, in fact, a 3-dimensional house, and you set up the cards ahead of time without looking too closely at them by letters and numbers to give you a different pattern, and then you're not going to really be able to see this, but you're looking in to these different holes all the way around the board trying to spot things. So like a picture hunt on an app, and you're trying to see and figure out maybe like, oh, is that a key? Can I reach that key? You do need an app. 1 players will have the app, and they will enter that number into the app, and then it will say, what did you think you found? And you say key, and it's like, yes, you did in fact find a key. And then there's a little deck of cards. You pull out the key, but the fact that you found the key is also stored in your app, because then maybe you rotate it and you're like, oh, I think there's a door in there. What number is it? That's D2. So you type D2 in the app and you say use. It pulls up your inventory of those cards that you found, and you can say use key on door, and then if it opens the door, you'll be able to open the door and go from there. Sometimes it will have you remove some of these so you can see different areas. And you are passing this back and forth around the table. People are looking. You can sit around it. Like if you elevate it, you can kind of all see in different sides. I'm assuming. I played it solo. I thought it was great solo, other than I had to manage the app and hold this and the cards kind of all at the same time. So that's why it took me almost the full hour to play. Sure. And you can ask for hints in the app if you're getting stuck or if you're getting frustrated, so that you don't get too frustrated. You can just move past that point and start solving the mystery and having a lot of fun. It definitely brings the Exit and Unlock games from that 2-dimensional format and puts the puzzles into a very 3-dimensional format. You do want to have a flashlight. I tried to use my phone, but again, because I was the person controlling the app on the phone and finding the flashlight, or the light on my phone, I finally just went and got a flashlight, and experience was that much better. So I was able to see into all those dark spaces, and you are actually like trying to see past stuff, and as things get removed, you might be able to see into a different room that you just couldn't see into before. So it is a little gimmicky in that sense, but it was a lot of fun. Like it really did feel like I was in a, like, you know, I had to like hold it up and go, oh my goodness, do you see that in there? 3rd room, go left at the bookshelf and behind. In my mind to myself, I talked to myself. Do you see that number 7 that is there? And it was very exciting. So I am actually going to keep this open copy and play the other game before I return it, because it was a lot of fun. And then I'll probably eventually have to pick up a used copy or something and try all the expansions, because I love unlock escape games, and so this just fits right in perfectly. All right, the last one I have today is the most mystery, the most pure deduction game I think that is out there. It's not based on process of elimination. It's not based on just making little puzzles, like coming up with the key to open the door or finding a number to enter it into a lock. It is story-based deduction, and it is a really quite old game that has been reprinted several times. In fact, so many times that my version is from a publisher that no longer makes the game. So the one that is on sale in store will not look like this, but I'm going to hold up the cover nonetheless. It's Sherlock Holmes, Consulting Detective, Thames Cases, or the Thames Murder and Other Cases. It is still a brown box, and it's, I believe, now just called Sherlock Holmes. I think they took off the Consulting Detective bit, but maybe not. Anyway, so this is the old version. The new version is what's on sale, but it's the same content in the game. And they've actually, since being taken over by that new company, come up with 3 other volumes of mysteries. So you get 10 mysteries per box. You could do it with 1 player, or you could do it with as many players as you want to fit in your room to listen to the story. Probably 5 or 6 would be max. And then you are going to have, the whole box is just a bunch of paper. And there's 2 things that are used in every case, and that's sort of a map of London. This will help give you the idea of proximity to the locations between things, and a directory of numbers that will help you figure out who lives in those locations. So it's a tiny, tiny print. Again, in the other version, it might be bigger or better, but you use this to reference the locations on this map. Now, what are you doing? You are given a case by Sherlock, which is this book, and as a group you are going to read a little 4-page story that's going to set up the case for you, and that's it. You're going to know there's a map and a directory, and you got this case percolating in your mind, and you're going to have to try to solve the case that was presented to you. And the object of the game is to figure out who you need to talk to. The back of this book are in kind of randomized order. You don't read through it like a book. You'd kind of come up with a person, and it would give you a location number, and then you'd go to the back of the book and say, okay, 4NW is where so-and-so lives. You'd find 4NW in your little booklet, and you'd read the next little bit of text that might give you some clues. It might have been a red herring and led you down to a wrong direction. So each player will take turns choosing one place, person, thing to go look at, look it up in the book, read it out, and then you sit and think about it. You'll probably all want to have pen and paper. You kind of want to be gathering your clues and be like, well, so-and-so said so-and-so was not there that night. They were, in fact, at the such and such restaurant. And then maybe you can go talk to that person or talk to the restaurant to see if they were, in fact, at the restaurant. And you're going to have to extrapolate what happened that night and who was where and who said what to figure out what the answer is to the case. So the munitions magnet is the first one that comes in the box. It'll tell you case 1 and a date. The date is important because you have one more piece of evidence as you get a newspaper that comes with that date. It's going to be a lot of different text and things that may or may not help you. There's birth announcements, funeral notices, ads, sporting things, but the date of the newspaper matches the date of the case, and you'll be able to use that to help you solve based on walking around and talking and asking people questions. Now, what makes this even a little more intense is as you work your way through the cases, you are allowed to and may need to use previously dated newspapers. So once I'm done with this first case, this book is over. I won't use it ever again, except if you're like me and you have a really bad memory. I'm just going to wait 2 years and redo all these. I won't remember anything. But if I move on to case 2, not only do I have the newspaper that goes with that case, I can reference this newspaper. So by the time you're in the middle and you have a room full of people sitting around, everyone might have one of these newspapers out, and they're looking at it and they're taking notes. And they're like, oh, there was something in that newspaper from 3 months ago by the date that said something about a birth announcement. Maybe that was this person and we should have known that they had a baby. Again, I'm not going to try to give away any clues, but it is the most pure deduction. You can feel like Sherlock Holmes because the way the game ends is when you think you're ready to solve the case, you flip to the back of that booklet and it has just like 3 questions that's going to ask you about specific aspects of what you should have learned. And hopefully you'll know the answers to those questions. You'll get some points based on how you answered them. And then there's some kind of other generic questions that have to do with other things that might give you more bonus points because you ended up finding that answer. So and then you go and see what the solution is. Sherlock comes and you have somebody read little Sherlock showing you how clever he is, and it will tell you how many leads he needed in order to solve that case. And then you compare with how many different things you had to read about, how many things you answered correctly to come up with kind of your score, and then you compare that to Sherlock. Now Sherlock's score is 100% because he's Sherlock Holmes and he's amazing, and so for you to score better than him, you actually have to like use less leads than he did, and but the score really isn't the point. The point is, did you solve the mystery and did you have a lot of fun along the way solving it? And maybe you didn't do as well as Sherlock did, but you still were able to get to the answers, and that's still a whole heck of a lot of fun. Someone says it does sound like they did a lot of work to give you so much info you can weed through. Yes, I know. I don't actually know who designed this and how long ago, but it was a while. I want to say like the 80s or 90s, and then it got reprinted. But maybe I'm thinking time is starting to lose all meaning, but it might have been 2008. I don't know. But my version's from about 2012. Asmodee picked it up, and there's 10 cases in this original box. And that's the one we have in stock in store now, and it will be on sale for the rest of the week. And it is normally $49.95, but you'll get it at 20% off. Well, that's all my games. The way that you can get an extra 5% off is if you just tell them at the counter that you solved the case. And they'll know that that means you get 5% discount. You can say, I solved the case to get the 5% discount. If you feel weird just saying, I solved the case. And they'll keep an extra 5% off of these games for the week. Let's see, any other questions? It says, it takes place 100 years ago, so... Oh. Well, how many cases are in the box? 10. I believe there's 10 in each of them. Yeah, 10. I mean, they're sizable. Some are longer than others. Some are more intense. But you do get all those newspapers as well in the box. It's like a really advanced choose your own adventure. And each one, I remember last time I did it with a group of people, so not just myself. It took like 3.5 hours, but we didn't really mind. So we were like not sitting at a table, our backs didn't hurt. We were sitting on the couch. We were having a couple drinks and just kind of walking through the mystery, and I think we did pretty good. As a solo thing, I sort of come back to it, like write some notes and then think about it and then just come back to the book when I've thought about it. So it takes me a really long time, but I don't just sit and stare at it usually for one extended period of time. All right, so that is it for this week. Let them know you solved the case and they'll get you an extra 5% off. Thank you again for joining me, and I hope that you all have a wonderful week. Thanks so much.